We are back with you live once again on another Johnny Torch live broadcast. Here we are, sitting high atop stately Torch Tower, looking on the fair metropolis below on a rather somber evening tonight, unfortunately. Going to get into that in a second. Thank you for joining us. Welcome into the show. And again, love the opening broadcast specialty number there that we have. I get to bring the show opener back in case you missed the last broadcast. I think most people did. That we are now bringing the show opener along with us to kick off things. So welcome in. Thank you for joining us here on the Torch News Roundup. This is Johnny Torch live broadcast number 235 and Torch News Roundup number 195. And just for starters here, as I said last time, we're going to try to put together a Torch News Roundup every so often, as long as we can possibly get a live stream going. But we've got some other things in play. Hopefully they'll pan out. If you haven't seen our last video, please check it out and you'll find out what I'm talking about. We're going to try to do some slightly more scripted things coming up in the future. But I am still going to try to very diligently get some live streams going out here. All right, so first things first, let me just shill for the book, The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye, my all-ages action adventure, color, spectacular, extraordinaire. Check it out in the link in the description below. You will not regret it. And you could also check out my social media links down below. But check out The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye on our website down there. Check out the free preview page, and you will see a couple of pages from our most latest endeavor, The Family Jewels, the opening act of a 3-issue arc. Most of them are 3 issues, but there are going to be some that are more or less. But for now, we're going to stick with the 3-issue arc. Check those out. The Family Jewels, $5. Come on, folks. I can't price these any cheaper than that. Just to get your foot in the door in the Bullets Bourbon universe, $5, and you will not regret it. Check it out in the link in the description below. You also have the first issue, which is only $7 with some, it's a remaster, so we get the brand new color and ink, lettering done. And some inking, too. I almost said inking, but I was thinking of the book I'm doing now, issue 8. Oh, my gosh, I got inking to do with... It's digital inks, which is difficult. I don't like inking digitally, but I kind of am forced to do so. Such as it is. But I digress. Anyway, check out the first issue, a remaster. 32 pages for only $7. That is a bargain and a half. Where I come from. I don't know where you come from, but where I come from, that's a bargain. $7 for 32 pages, remastered. We also have the 40-pager Knock on Wood, which is also remastered. It's issues 2 and 3 as a trade. You get that one for $8, or is it $9 now? I think it's $9. And finally, the third trade, which has the issues 4, 5, and 6. It's for only $10. Please check them out. Please be a patron for us here at Johnny Torch Comics, trying to bring you only the best indie comics has to offer. Now that the shilling is done, we are going to sadly take a look at the passing of a hero of mine, personally. This is news that just happened today. We all knew that Rush Limbaugh was ill with cancer, terminal lung cancer, and Rush Limbaugh passed on today at the age of 70. Very sad for those of us, especially who are conservative, of course. And I first became aware of Rush as an early teen. I might have been 11, 12. I think George Bush was still president. This was when he was first on television with his own television show. And as I've said this story probably many times, but my mother woke me up, said, "Come on, you have to watch this guy. He's actually defending Dan Quayle." And I was like, wow, this is quite a guy. He's actually sticking up for conservatives. He's sticking up for Republicans. And of course, this was at a time when this was probably just before the election of Bill Clinton. This was at a time when conservatives were basically being roasted and lampooned, and you were made to feel a joke if you were a conservative. And we finally had a guy that actually was poking fun at the other side. He was basically making it cool to be conservative. And I was taken with the fella right off the bat on those terms alone. And of course, he was very funny, a lot of humor he used in his show, Rush Limbaugh. Of course, a lot of his shtick. I found a lot of it fun, especially when he would do update themes on his radio show and double up, double up, double up, double up. And then he'd play some kind of song that would tie into whatever subject he was poking fun at on the left. And, sadly, as time has progressed, you can see how conservatives have gone from being sources of mockery and ridicule, like Dan Quayle was during the 92 election, to now Donald Trump being an object of scorn, and how the left is really metastasized, if I can use a medical term, into just intolerance, which I guess is going to be the theme of today's show. Again, kind of a somber topic, but one that has to be addressed. And again, I usually don't go too political, but again, Rush is a great hero of mine, and it's really sad to see where things have fallen in the social political landscape. Now, if you're a conservative or a Republican, the outright scorn and disdain that you're shown, wokeness having taken over completely and unmercilessly, unfortunately. And you can even see it. I didn't spend a lot of time today trying to find these soulless sociopaths who are downright gleeful at the passing of Rush Limbaugh, but they are out there. I purposefully did not try to seek them out or engage them. But it goes to show just how dehumanizing they see the political opposition. This is surely not right. And we've seen it with the Trump presidency, the whole past 4 years, how he was demonized, even more than 4 years. His whole campaign and the election, the 2016 election, just completely dehumanizing anybody that deigns disagree with the mainstream media, with, as Rush called it, the drive-by media, the news media. But even, it started back when Rush first appeared on television. He was put up against the talk show clique of the day, which was Jay Leno and Letterman. And eventually, of course, we would get even more drastic liberals in, such as Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel. All these types just got worse and worse over the time. And of course, now being conservative is being thought of as sort of counterculture. He was counterculture back when it wasn't known that you were going to be counterculture by being conservative. It was just looked down as being spoofed. For instance, in the 80s, we had Alex P. Keaton and his young Republican spoof kind of a shtick. In the 70s, we had Carol O'Connor with Archie Bunker. These images were slowly but surely developed over time during the 70s and 80s to try to make the conservative appear out of touch and spoof them as being, in most cases, sort of the upper crust, the famous church lady skits and stuff on Saturday Night Live, also trying to make the Christians appear intolerant and so on and so forth. But again, Rush just took the genre by the horns and said, look, conservatism is something to be championed. We're not going to be treated as second class. We're not going to be ignored. And as that kind of grew and Rush, became the face of the conservative movement during the 90s as the opposition to Bill Clinton and the really harsh left wing of the Democrat Party took over the Democrat Party. Rush became the face of conservatism. He was the figurehead for the conservative movement, beginning with Newt Gingrich and, going back and turning the House Republican for the first time in decades. Again, a lot of this lays at the feet of Rush. And we also, of course, have to acknowledge how he profoundly influenced all who followed him. He began humbly on radio. And again, he was a very humble man, too. I mean, of course, there was a lot of the fun bravado and stuff of, half my brain tied behind my back to make it fair, and all these great catchphrases. But he was a very humble man, and you could see that in a lot of his Christmas time messages just before he would sign off for the rest of the year, as most radio hosts did to take vacations at that period of Christmas vacation. He would come across very humble. And one of my favorite things that to this day I still do, even when I've kind of fallen out of touch with talk radio and I don't listen to it as much as I used to, but I always come back to listen to Rush do the Thanksgiving story, where he went to great lengths to explain in his book, See, I Told You So, or was it The Way Things Ought to Be? No, I think it was See, I Told You So. He went to great lengths to explain how conservatism basically was what the founding fathers did with the Pilgrims coming to America and founding the nation on those kind of principles. And again, it's just very difficult. It's difficult to imagine a conservative movement now without Rush Limbaugh. It's very depressing. And I remember, over the course of many years, Trump became the face of the Make America Great Again movement, but it wouldn't have taken hold, I think, without the foundational steps, so to speak, by Rush. And of course, he paved the way, as I was saying, for a lot of his successors, I suppose, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, a lot of them, but none of them are going to be able to pick up the slack. None of them are going to be worthy of the golden EIB microphone. And it's very sad. It's a very sad day for conservatives. And I said this on Twitter, and I guess I'll leave it with this. I said, if there's one thing I've learned about many people in general, it's that they despise someone with confidence. And Rush exuded confidence. That's why they hate Rush. That's why they hate Trump. That's why they hated Christ and Christians, moreover. Because when someone looks you dead square in the eye and says you're wrong, and here's the reason why, that's a power they can't comprehend. The power of conviction in the truth. When you have conviction that what you're doing is true and it's rooted in truthfulness, you have confidence, and that shakes the opposition, because most of the time it shakes them free from their personal little fantasy for only an instant. They cannot tolerate that. It takes no intestinal fortitude whatsoever to go along, to get along. But you come right out and slay the sacred cows and say, sorry, I'm not playing along, which you believe isn't rooted in truth. The world will not tolerate that. It will not tolerate you. And so when you see these figures historically going against the grain, going against what the beautiful people are saying and doing, and it's always the harshest pushback they receive. And as I also said, it's like when you have the right enemies, you know you're doing something right. You know when you're accomplishing something. When you see just the despicable display that a lot of people on the left are showing, you know you've got the right enemies. I mean, say what you will about anybody on the left dying. I mean, I think like RGB was probably the most recent. If you heard 3 people saying an unkind word when she passed on, it was a lot. But you'll notice how the other side is particularly nasty. And it's disconcerting, but, we shouldn't be probably too surprised. I think I'm also going to finish up this eulogy, so to speak, with another quote, a biblical quote that I posted on Twitter today. John 15:18 and 19, Jesus said, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. So again, thank you to Rush Limbaugh for all he did in getting the conservative movement truly off the ground and inspiring me particularly, but I know at least a whole generation. I think, quite honestly, Generation X, if anything, their political leanings and philosophies were probably shaped solely by Rush Limbaugh. And that's quite a feat to inspire an entire generation like that. Because you got to remember, most of us were a little young for Ronald Reagan, who, of course, Rush heralded as the great Ronaldus Magnus. And I think that's why Donald Trump was probably the first president, I don't want to say in our lifetime, but in our, in our years of being into politics, so to speak, that lived out the philosophies, more or less, that Rush Limbaugh espoused. So again, rest in peace, Rush. 70 years old. Wish you could have had at least a dozen more, but thank you for the years that we did have him. And, his legacy will go on. It will always go on. All right, so that's the way it goes, and very sad. Very sad. Let's see, we got a comment here from A-Rod 2006. What is good, Johnny? And right now, not a whole lot, but thanks for tuning into the show, A-Rod. Much appreciate you checking out the show. I have to also mention a lot of subs I'm getting. I appreciate all you guys that are tuning in to the show now. All the subs I've gotten in the past 2 months since the show got off the ground has been amazing. Since the beginning of the year, I've got, 178 subs now. We are on our way. It takes a while to get a show, a channel established. I think we've actually got some pretty good groundwork laid for the past couple of years that now we are only going to reach for the stars. So let's check out, what's our next story. Sad as it is, we're going to talk about Gina Carano. Yes, they've finally done it. They've tried desperately. They've tried desperately to cancel Gina Carano because of her conservative leaning, because of her outspoken openness in free thought. They finally canceled her, and Disney has fired her from The Mandalorian. This, of course, is week-old news at this point, but I did have to touch on this, especially in light of what we're talking about with Rush and how the terrible abuse that conservatives are facing in modern society. The Disney company just put out a statement saying that they are not going forward with any projects involving Gina Carano. Now, this, of course, led to a huge outcry of support for Gina because she has plenty of fans, especially in Star Wars fandom, over her role as Cara Dune. A lot of people are now canceling their Disney Plus subscription because of what the Disney Channel or the Disney company has. I keep wanting to say the Disney Channel, but what the Disney company has done. So immediately after her firing, a lot of people protested this, said they're canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions. I personally don't have a Disney Plus subscription, so I can't cancel it. I am not a huge fan of boycotting things, in all honesty, but because what I'm, I didn't check out The Mandalorian for the first season or the second. I was waiting until Disney Plus has enough programming to justify me, continually paying for it. So now I'm at a crossroads now where, since there is 2 seasons of The Mandalorian under their belt, and now WandaVision is in the middle of being produced, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier are going to be out pretty soon, I'm kind of at a crossroads now at what to do if I'm going to get Disney Plus after waiting all this time. Because like I said, I'm not really a big fan of boycotts, but I also don't think that, if this kind of behavior is rewarded, they're not going to stop it, unfortunately. All right, so the Daily Wire then hired Gina Carano, and I honestly don't know. I've got the quotes here from Gina and from Ben Shapiro. I don't honestly know a lot about the Daily Wire and what it does in terms of filmmaking. I do know that Ben Shapiro runs the company, and that's where his shows, his broadcasts come from. So it might have something to do with that. I don't know exactly. But I'll read the copy here. Gina Carano put out a statement saying, "The Daily Wire is helping make one of my dreams, to develop and produce my own film, come true. I cried out and my prayer was answered. I am sending out a direct message of hope to everyone living in fear of cancellation by the totalitarian mob. I have only just begun using my voice, which is now freer than ever before, and I hope it inspires others to do the same. They can't cancel us if we don't let them." And of course, I am just 100% on board with this. I am not afraid of being canceled because I don't care. If I don't make a dime from one of my comics for the rest of my life, I don't care, as long as I have the freedom to say what I want to say. And I'll just keep making the comics anyway. I'll still promote them on every platform that I can, and I'll try to get them in as many hands as possible. But I've never cared about being in with the cool people, the beautiful people, the cliques, if it means that I've got to be a phony. And I am not a phony. I'm not going to be a phony for anyone, and I've never been a phony. And I appreciate Gina Carano being the same way with her outlook on life. And so far, there's only a handful of people who are Republicans who take the brunt of this abuse, who take this scorn, because anybody else, and I'm sure there are many others, they don't want to face this kind of abuse. They don't want to be canceled. They enjoy working. They enjoy taking a paycheck. Take a look at Chris Pratt. He just identifies as a Christian, and he also is routinely trending and attempted to be canceled just for being a Christian. But so far, there's only a handful of people who are outspoken Republicans. And guess what? They never work again. Of course, James Woods, Kevin Sorbo, Dean Cain, Scott Baio. These are, of course, great guys. And many of them are very talented as well, that do not really work anymore because of just identifying as a conservative and or Christian. I think one of the most embarrassing things was Dean Cain, when they unceremoniously wrote him off of Supergirl just due to the pressure of him identifying as a conservative and as a Christian. I mean, he was in the God's Not Dead films. Same thing with Kevin Sorbo. It's amazing that he managed to land a role in Supergirl, probably one of the most wokest shows out there, when he was in God's Not Dead. It's amazing. But again, and I don't like having to do shows like this. I like to talk about the fun stuff. That's why, like I said, I think I'm going to go back to doing some more scripted stuff, because there's just nothing fun to talk about anymore in this day. There's just nothing fun, because everyone is trying to cancel everyone else. And I even said this on Twitter, and I got some less than enthusiastic responses by my fellow conservatives. But if you disagree with Gina Carano being canceled, and yet you say, well, I'm all for Brie Larson, Amber Heard, James Gunn, whoever else, if you're all for them being canceled, then honestly, you're being a hypocrite. Honestly, you're not paying attention. Now, that doesn't mean that I have to like what James Gunn says for jokes, allegedly jokes and humor. I think it's pretty disgusting. But do I mean to take the man's livelihood away from him? You know, if you'll kind of own up to the stupidity and just apologize, as I suppose James Gunn has, I can't fault the guy anymore for a victimless crime of edgelord humor. And the same thing with Brie Larson. A lot of people want to see her canceled and fired from Captain Marvel and never working again. That is not being a free speech absolutist, at least as I see it. She's allowed to say stupid things, Brie Larson. She's allowed to act the way she does. She's allowed to say she doesn't care if 40-year-old white men see her films. I don't have to see her film. I don't have to support her if I don't want to. But that doesn't mean that she's not allowed to say whatever she wants. And the same thing with Amber Heard. I personally am with Johnny Depp on that side of the argument or whatever is going on. But between the two of them, it is their business. And I don't think that Amber Heard should never work again because she's causing Johnny Depp a difficult time in a divorce. It's the same thing with Johnny Depp. I mean, he said some non-too-kind things about President Trump. Does that mean I think he should never work again? No. I enjoy his performances in many of his movies. I enjoy Amber Heard in Aquaman. I don't think they should be punished because of either their political opinions or their stupidity in basically doing dumb things. And I'm not going to get any deeper into, any of that stuff between Heard and Depp. But again, you have to be a free speech absolutist. I think Gina Carano deserves the freedom to say anything she wants to say. And in the same way, Brie Larson, James Gunn, Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, they get the right to say whatever they want to say and still go to work in the morning and do whatever it is they do. So we got a statement also from Ben Shapiro, who says, "We could not be more excited to be working with Gina Carano, an incredible talent dumped by Disney and Lucasfilm for offending the authoritarian Hollywood left." And that's true. That's the scary thing. You cannot be in the arts if you are offending the authoritarian left. That is basically what gave rise to Comicsgate, which, again, that's a whole other topic. That's a subject. But basically, Comicsgate was born out of comic book creators. And, of course, this is why this is near and dear to me, because I'm a comic book creator. Comic book creators coming right out and saying, look, if you don't like what we're doing to your characters, don't buy them, don't read them, don't have anything to do with them. You're not our kind of people. And again, the comics, we're talking about the big two here, they belong to everyone. They don't belong to an ideology. Captain America is not a Bernie socialist. And, Superman is not a, Biden Harris acolyte. Basically, we're pushing these characters in a direction where we have to appease the image that we have of the left and the right. The left has to be praised as being the golden savior of the world, while the right has got to be treated as neo-fascists. That's where the problems come in. And that's kind of where Comicsgate came in, where it was a cry by people, particularly like myself, who were saying, look, I want to enjoy, and also, I guess, an adjacent being the Fandom Menace, which is at the same time Star Wars being co-opted by the feminists and the SJWs. But it was a cry from those of us who are on this side of the political spectrum saying, look, you don't get to do that. You don't get to take away our toys and say you can't play with them anymore unless you accept them behaving like this. And it led to some interesting things, like, for instance, in Comicsgate, a lot of creators trying to fill the void, myself included to an extent, bringing an old-fashioned flair for storytelling, no wokeness, no diversity, quota filling, trying to make things fun and exciting and humorous without fearing that you're going to offend somebody, making things sexy without being afraid that feminists will have a coronary. And again, see, that's what is needed. We need to have the opposite side of the political spectrum represented in its own media. And I guess that's what Shapiro and Carano and many of them probably should try to do, and try to make more attractive and lucrative for those of us, in their case, with Hollywood and big budget type projects. We could do our own thing here in the comic book world. And the whole idea is to try to make that fashionable, make that the alternative that the normal layman will enjoy, because that's what they're missing. They're missing the fun, exciting, sexy stuff. They're missing the comedy that we don't say certain things because we're afraid. We can't make a fat joke. We can't make a racially tinged joke or whatever. Otherwise, you're branded, and the rest of your life, they're going to find out you laughed at a fried chicken joke in 1988 or something. You know what I mean? It's just, we've got these manacles on entertainment that need to be let loose. And again, a lot of these things also have to do with, you're liking the wrong tweets, you're making the wrong tweets, you're expressing yourself in opposition to the liberal agenda. And again, it's just ridiculous. All right, so let me pick up where I left off. This is what Daily Wire exists to do: provide an alternative, not just for consumers, but for creators who refuse to bow to the mob, Shapiro said. We're eager to bring Gina's talent to Americans who love her, and we're just as eager to show Hollywood that if they want to keep canceling those who think differently, they'll just be helping us build the X-Wing to take down their Death Star. So once again, it's positive news, I suppose, on that front. Again, I would love it if things like Star Wars went into the hands of creators that would treat it impartially and not try to make it a woke project or whatever. But at least Gina Carano has prospects for the future, and apparently her prospects are looking good. So hopefully things continue to work out on that front. Okay, we'll touch on a couple more things here before we wrap it up. We've got some images came in of Thor: Love and Thunder. I talked about this a couple of, maybe last show, I don't know, maybe a couple of shows ago, that we've got some snaps. Let's see, that's Thor in a I don't know, kind of still giving off the 80s vibe. That looks like some kind of, I don't know if it's like a Eddie Van Halen vest or something. Thankfully, he's in shape. That was my first concern. Thankfully, he's got the long Goldilocks again, which was probably my second concern. And he still has the, what is that called? Stormbreaker or Godslayer or whatever. I'm getting confused between Wonder Woman and him. I think he's got the Stormbreaker. I still miss Mjolnir. I wish he had Mjolnir back. I don't like Thor with an axe. I mean, isn't axe kind of like a negative thing? You know what I mean? An axe is like what axe killers use and stuff. You know what I mean? That's why when Odin gives him that brief whatever lecture or whatever where he says, it's a tool to build or to destroy, and he's making a statement on what you can do with Mjolnir. And with Stormbreaker, it's like basically you kill people. It worked if you want to kill Thanos, but apart from that, it's not really useful. And then of course we got Star-Lord. I love the way Pratt looks in this outfit. That looks so cool. That's like Star-Lord turned up to 11. And that's probably the intent. Let's see, we got a couple more. Let's see. There's Gamora. I'm not entirely sure if that's a stunt double or if that's Karen Gillian, but yeah, on the set apparently Gamora is gonna. Oh, Gamora, excuse me, Nebula. I yeah, Nebula, and I don't know. That might be. I think we heard tell that she was going to be in this Nebula, not Gamora. I don't think Gamora is in this one, from what I understand. But this film probably is going to have a lot of setup for Guardians 3, and it'll probably sort of point us in that direction on what happened to Gamora. So exciting times to be sure. I'm still not sure what I think of this film. Jury's still out on if this is it's going to be a big disaster, or if it's in fact going to be pretty good. We've got Sean Gunn here on the set. I don't remember what his character's name is, to be totally honest. But yeah, that's also pretty cool that they're going to involve him in this film. And let's see the last one here. Got one more, I believe. Pretty excited, that some of this is leaking out anyway, because there really is nothing to talk about in terms of this stuff. Wait a second, we're freezing up here. I can't get the last image on. So let me see what I can do about that. No, apparently it's frozen. All right, give me a second and I will be right back. the Torch News Roundup, number 195. Wow, a lot of roundups in the books. We're going to get to that big 200th roundup. What do you think that should be about? What are we going to do for our 200th show? We've got 235 live shows in the books as well. So thank you once again for everyone for being here. Thank you everyone for showing up for us. Thank you for the subs. Share, like, and subscribe. We want to get this show going. We want to roll. If you have anything at all whatsoever to say, be sure to leave your comments in the comments section below. I read all the comments. I will address them on a subsequent broadcast. And make sure you check out the Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye on our website. The link is in the description below. And so, until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.